Namaste, everyone. I am Abhijit. I am Director Ease of Doing Business at Advanced Services for Social and Administrative Reforms and also heading National Highway for EV project. To start with, I would say two lines about the growth. That जब से उसने शहर को छोड़ा, growth. उसने means growth. जब से उसने शहर को छोड़ा, हर रास्ता सुनसान हुआ. जब से उसने शहर को छोड़ा, हर रास्ता सुनसान हुआ. अपना क्या है? From inside, we all are fakir. We are either doing for the family or for the company or for the wife or for the girlfriend. But from inside, we feel that हमारा तो कुछ है ही नहीं. So जब से उसने शहर को छोड़ा, हर रास्ता सुनसान हुआ. अपना क्या है सारे शहर का, एक जैसा नुकसान हुआ. I strongly believe in the concept of pralay and the concept of the continuous correction of nature. Nature keeps balancing itself. Anything which she cannot handle, she destroys. In this webinar where I see lots of people who are answerable to their management and to their company and to their team, and who have to answer back to them that how long this lockdown is going to remain, I will give you one very realistic and one very economical example where you can put yourself and see how serious this warning is. COVID is not an airborne virus. COVID cannot float into air. It requires a medium, either touch or something which has been touched by one person and again been touched by the other person. So in this scenario, if one person do not understand that, think about it if the virus was airborne and it can float in air. Right now we have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. The transmission is spread, then the community is spread, then corona will reach to a beyond community spread is phase 3 and phase 4, and then it will be like zombie situation. In this situation, we need to understand that we have to minimize the risk. To minimize the risk, we have to understand how many options we are left with. I understand we are only left with two options. That either we go back to nature and start doing the course correction of what we have been doing till date, or we go to a Star War kind of phase where you have gas chambers, you are wearing suit like an astronaut, you have a continuous oxygen supply, and outside your cubicle or outside your bunker, the world is burning. ये जो conflict है, ये प्रकृति के बीच में और इसके बीच में मानवता के बीच में जो conflict है, ये बिल्कुल प्रखर और प्रयत्नशील होकर सामने आ गया, जहां दोनों प्रकृति और मानवता दोनों अपने अपने अस्तित्व की रक्षा के लिए बहुत प्रखर और बहुत प्रयत्नशील दिख रहे हैं. पूरी दुनिया में लोग एक बात एक समय में एक साथ सोच रहे हैं, वो ये है कि if we cannot pick up nature as our priority, will nature keep on giving us warning? Will she still continue tolerating human as a species or not? What we are going to address today, what all discussions we are going to have today, we are going to talk about the impact as a solution for sustainable alternatives. We are going to talk about screening at airport, visa regulations, immigrations, and we are going to talk about migration of workers and manufacturing, again the future mobility and the shift of business, interdependencies of economies from China to India and for the global perspective.
So, sir, as you have worked on both the ends, like climate, environment, and economy, so do you think COVID-19 is a wake-up call? Also, I would like to have your comments on the inverse relationship between environment and the economy.
Very good question. I look at COVID-19 impact and the attack as a last warning. If you look at the seriousness, world and globe, transport and aviation, nothing has ever got locked down like this. I have not seen any of the incidences in history where the lockdown or the globe has blocked like this. So it is not a wake-up call, it is a very critical warning. Our entire economy was structured somewhere around the threat which we had earlier. Is global warming would someday going to kill us, all of us. Global warming reason was the ultraviolet rays and the heat that is generated by sun and received by the earth. Right now, whatever loss and whatever damage we created to the ozone layer because of combustion and the emission has gone down, the ozone has managed to repair itself. So if you will read the scientific observation that we are out of the threat from the global warming now, just because we locked down for a few days and then we repaired our ozone layer. If you look at the economy, then the entire significance and the entire definition of development has gone wrong. Countries we thought are developed, healthcare system has proven to be failed. So most developed countries of Roman Empire and most aggressive country like US, they have not managed to do this. That what we thought as a development is not a development. Development is something which will be able to manage these risks, which we are going to see in future.
Thank you, sir. It was indeed it is indeed harsh reality to accept, but we have to do it. So we are really curious to know when the lockdown will be over.
Lockdown would not get open into one layer, which I told in first week of lockdown, information which we keep on getting being connected with WHO and administrative organizations. Basic necessary services are still on and it is working. Further, state by state, it would be divided and it will be decided. Later on stage, other services of government who are not coming under the necessary services will be included, and with a proper protocol of people attending those organizations and their offices, it would slightly get open. And then, and the third, I think, layer, the large corporate who can handle such kind of critical screening at this stage of time and who can handle the protocol, who would be suggested by WHO or a health advisory organization, would get open. So our organization or a small corporates or the market or the restaurant will still remain locked down until and unless the threat is minimized or the area is scrutinized that there is no case in this area. This area can be cordoned off and then people inside it, they can move. But still people who are entering that area would have a very critical screening. So I don't see this is getting open. At the other hand, I see lots of positivity coming up. So we'll keep discussing this when you will ask your next question.
There's a question from Bangalore. Mr. Venkar is asking, how is India tackling the current pollution crisis?
It is an opportunity for regulatory body and government both to regulate it at this stage of time. Otherwise, they will not be able to regulate it later, because this stage of time people have seen both. At one hand, they have seen how closely death has came and touched them. And second, how beautiful it is outside the sky if you are going out and seeing the sky or the bird chiming around everything. So I think people need to understand this message and pick up that whoever is very important and necessary to go out with an emission vehicle, they should only be allowed.
Sir, as you have extensive experience in working closely with both government and industry, would you like to throw some light on dependency of economic rescue on government policy, and is it viable?
Dependency on government policy at this stage of time is going to be very critical. There were lots of sectors who were not very highly regulated. At this stage of time, the activities which government would take after COVID lockdown is divided into two stages. One is helping those organizations or those sectors who has got a very bad hit. And at the second side, controlling those organizations and those activity of our economy or our industry, where we are again going to land up in some similar situation. So dependency on government is very high at this stage of time.
What I wanted to ask you regarding the pollution, how India is tackling the pollution was my first question. The second question is, given the fact, like you just stated, that we humans, we're all responsible for whatever is happening around us, but and pollution being one of them, and even now you can go out, you get fresh air, but I think once the lockdown period has gone off, will it be A, back to normal, and B, relating to the NHEV initiative, because I was really excited about it, will this be rolled out throughout India as well to tackle the pollution?
Thank you, Sven. I think this is a very good and relevant question, but how we are going to handle the project like this, or how people are going to respond to it, is very important at this stage of time. If we are not understanding this critical power of us, that we have to choose between two things. Economy always gives you an indication that what thing is more important for you. And at this stage of time, we all have understood that one thing which is most important is life, not the price. So price scenario and the price economics of whatever alternative which we can choose between solar or the fossil fuel, between wind energy or electric power or nuclear energy, or again burning into fossil fuel. It depends on us that what kind of economics and what kind of narrative we are setting for the purchasing or for the adoption. Right now, when we go with projects like National Highway Electric Vehicle or a project which speaks more about alternative and green energy, at this stage of time, most of the time, bank turn us down and say it is not affordable, viable, it is expensive. But after COVID-19 period, when people will go back, they will primarily have understood the definition of nature, that life is most important. Today, the way you are using fossil fuel in diesel vehicle, tomorrow if you land up into a situation which I told you in my pilot, that you get a virus which is air floating, then you are dead. 48 hours, enough, finish. So if you do not want to land up into that situation, we need to change our definition of affordability, that even if e-mobility is little higher side, then we do not have an option. We do not have an alternative choice.
So do you think that this COVID-19 and this lockdown will have a lasting consequences on the economy?
Definitely, it will have very lasting consequences of economy. And for a country like India, it would have positive consequences. So you might find me, or people who are there in the webinar, they might find me little out of the box and funny, but for a country like India, it is definitely in long term, it is going to be a very positive impact. From the economical point of view, India is going to be next destination for the solution.
Good afternoon, all the panelists. Good afternoon, the team of ASAR. Predictability in unpredictable times, you said, very, very catchy theme. And you yourself in the body of the theme mentioned that unpredictable times call for going strategic. Now, there's an old saying in India, India has a large coastline. When fishermen can't go to sea, they repair their nets. So that is using the wait time for planning and preparing for the next catch. So what we do, as one of my friends had told, we repair our processes, we repair our gaps, we repair our procedures, we repair our plans, and we sharpen our tools. Now, the point that I would like to make, we have excess of information. We have exposed ourselves to the social media, which we are not able to curtail. More or less, any information may be important and we are curious to know, but then that has caused a lot of negative effect also. So I'll come to that later. One of the key deliverables one should focus on is the attitude right now. These are unprecedented crises. India has not seen it for a long, long time. At least me in my living memory have not seen it. So we have to be prepared for very, very out of the box thinkings, big paradigm shifts. It is all building up day by day. And as you very rightly remarked, Abhijit, the post-COVID thing is also not going to be easy. Now, the purpose here is not to be scared, but to be prepared and what one can do. Now, attitudes influence thinking, and thinking determines our actions. So what we can do, the solution approach, we have to prioritize, we have to think out of the box, we have to think innovatively, and we have to think disruptively. Now, going with that sequence, what is our priority number one? Right now, the priority number one is safety, hygiene, and wellness. And when we say hygiene and wellness, that is social distancing, staying at home, and the personal protection equipment, PPE. Business point we want to talk about, Abhijit, is the economic survival. Economic survival, sustenance, and well-being. Now, we have to, brace out for the government. The government, luckily, in India today, has been recognized the world over. The man is leading from the front. The big M, he is very, very sensitive, sensitized, and has very good information flows to him. So the government is going to ready a bailout package or a relief package. A lot of infrastructure built up should be focused. And I think we have luckily very good road minister. We have very good railway minister. So they are going to look into it. That will be part and parcel of the $200 billion US package which the industry has asked for it. Government is looking into it. They are going to ready and they are going to announce it. Now, the other big part is catch the tide of the FDI. We have to be ready to substitute China when the economy rebounds. We have to keep that writing on the wall the new paradigms that are emerging is that US and Europe meltdown is there, and there is a total supply chain disruption from China. So the China honeymoon is getting over. All the countries, including Japan, are announcing that the companies should look at alternative locations or get back home. So India market is the new harbinger of hope for the world business community. And we should be taking certain steps to catch the FDI and catch the new manufacturing, because this is our market, which is very, very big and lively, and we should plan accordingly. Thank you very much.
Initially, the information started coming about Corona. Yeah. The market got a very good pace towards moving to India. We also got a couple of news that many companies who had their base at China, and they were trying or they were planning to shift it to India. But immediately after that, this COVID impact came and it went all around the world. And we could not handle this. All of the countries, they could not handle this. I am very sure that the kind of design which was made by the Honorable Prime Minister, that the structural reform has to come up, and then the India as a brand has to go out and put its place as a very favorable destination. That plan was working very well, very good. This strategy, when we obviously after making a market in our favor, we have to wait for something to happen in our favor.
Of course.
That something happened when China was very, very much stuck into COVID impact. Companies, when they started talking about this, at the same time, we were slightly engaged into our own difficult times due to what was happening into Delhi, and lots of international news and media agencies were covering it into a different spirit and genre, that India is not again a stable country, despite of being Prime Minister Modi with coming back with humping majority. It is being difficult because there are conflicts and there is a civil war kind of situation. So we all need to understand that how we look at economy is not how it is. It is not only us we decide, but there are external forces also. They decide, and I was surprised to see the coverage of Delhi. I would say a very unfortunate conflict, but into all international newspaper, not just because they are sympathizing with something or anything, just because India as a destination in Asia was coming up very high.
Sir, as we were talking about, in continuation with what Mr. Gupta had said, do you think that COVID would hamper the ease of doing business campaign growth and the precision? Also, what about the 5 trillion economy goal?
See, at this stage of time, talking about 5 trillion of economy would not suit the scenario and would not suit the pace on which we were moving. If you look at the strategy from where it started from 2014, when we started giving India a different outlook into international market. And why we were doing, because at one side, when we are doing a domestic correction, we understand that there is a requirement of FDI to develop a large base country like India. And when Prime Minister Modi was giving this outfit to our nation, to an extent, he very well succeeded. We started with a global World Bank ranking of ease of doing business of 142, and we moved up to 63. Right now, we are on 63. And our target next year was to reach to 50th global World Bank rank. At this stage of time, I don't think the ranking will be dissolved. Ranking will remain same, but the indicator. However, World Bank ranking already had an indicator from the climate and environment side. But now these indicators will take over. And country would again be ranked, but they will be ranked into a sequence that what good practices from economy side they are doing, and what kind of utilization, overutilization, underutilization, or exploitation of natural resources they are doing. So I'm just making speculations, because World Bank is yet to give the new framework for the ranking. And once we are getting it, I find these things very close to basic Indian ideology and basic Indian thought of living with the nature. So we see a legacy into it, and we will be able to climb up. At this stage of time, when world has got a very bad hit and almost a reset button from coronavirus, I don't think so 5 trillion economy would be possible for us.
My question is that right now, and definitely over the next 2 quarters, companies around the world are going to suffer significant loss. And not to mention that at a country economy level, there are going to be a lot of losses. So coming out of the lockdowns, companies who have survived, their priority will be to recover those losses. So these are things that they will attempt to do by picking up low-hanging fruit, to deploy available resources, which means resources that have already been mined and are available for investment, rather than investing into new capital and especially resources that are very capital intensive. So that's really not going to be the priority for companies. So how do we kind of put this in place? How, especially in a country like India, where we largely to say, I mean, right now, and if you look at the last 2 quarters prior to the COVID lockdown, the economy was in a slump. So in a financially depressed economy such as India, it doesn't fit the government's mandate or agenda to prioritize regulations for the adoption of sustainable means. So if it still has to be done, how do we kind of get about that?
I think economy and nature, by nature, both of them, they act like same thing. If we are getting one loss from one side, at the other side, we have to earn something, then only we'll be able to balance. At this stage of time, when we are already into a depressive economy, and at this stage of time, this COVID lockdown given another impact to us. And the same time, when government will come back and they will put higher regulations, these higher regulations will pull down further. So where is the positivity? There is no positivity is coming into it. We will have to find out the area where the positivity is coming in. I see a couple of indicators where I can see a positive growth even into this lockdown. I see TRP of channels and the media and entertainment. I see education, edu learning, and I see lots of content driven and lots of internet like Zoom or many of the organizations who have raised and who has increased their subscription right now. Globally, people are very much confused at what kind of development which we have done, which did not even help us, which does not even have the efficiency to save our lives. At this stage of time, all over the world, people are thinking what has gone terribly wrong. And if something has gone terribly wrong, then there would be some solution somewhere in the globe. This is how nature works. When there is a pralaya, when there is a judgment or the end of the day, then while sweeping out the future seed of the nature, future seed of creativity and creation is saved somewhere, and rest everything is. इसीलिए कहा जाता है कि मनुष्य अपनी वृत्ति से हमेशा प्रकृति को अर्थ व्यथा देता है, लेकिन प्रलय के समय भी सबसे संचित एक सृजन का बीज बचा लिया जाता है, और जो इस काल से ज्यादा उत्तम नहीं होता है, जो बेहतर होता है, उसे बचा लिया जाता है और बाकी सबको मिटा दिया जाता है. At this stage of time, the only thing which is bringing us close is to be very clear that if world or the globe is deciding to go into 2 directions, which side India is planning to go. Are we going to starve our side where we have to make bunker and we have to maintain a continuous supply of oxygen, or we are going back to the nature? If we are going back to the nature, then we need to go back into our history, into our legacy, into our ancient wisdom of Vedas and other things, where people have developed a certain level of coexistence without conflicting. And these coexistence are going to become tomorrow's product, tomorrow's services for the globe, which are generated, developed, packed, packaged, and marketed from India.
Till what extent do you think international relations would be affected? Globalization, interdependencies of economies, and foreign investments, obviously.
I think we already have started seeing the symptom of what it is going to happen after COVID impact. Is everything which has generated from a certain country, from a definite country, which is China, and people have started talking into different tones and languages with the country. There are diplomatic relations right now, and there are diplomatic protocols also. There are international protocols for environment and climate also, which we every year discuss into Paris, into the climate summit. Last year we discussed into Paris climate summit. So what I'm trying to say is, if there is a country like China, which exists on the globe and does not allow public or independent media to report what it is happening, whether people are dying because of fever or cough or flu or a virus, then what would happen? We have seen this. So in future, into interdependent studies or into interdependent protocol or the diplomacy, it would not remain anymore. Every country will at least have to maintain a certain standard of disclosing their activities, what they are doing inside their border, and they will have to be transparent basically towards the natural resources. Somebody who is doing a genetic modification or somebody who is playing with the virus or trying to create a weapon or something, people are not going to take this in the global market again after this. So there would be conflict, there would be a war kind of situation where people would not fight with each other with this, but there would be sanctions war, which will impose to all those countries who are not listening to international or who are creating a threat for entire humanity and mankind. Other thing which you asked is interdependence of economics. Economies are interdependent. At this stage of time, since everyone is going down, then I think it's a time for a call for a global leadership and a global kind of environment or the regulatory framework. When we talk about politics, we basically talk about policy. And that policy is to be decided by a certain set of politicians elected through some sort of process. At this stage of time, when the world is thinking and is going through a similar kind of problem, many of the policies which we will implement into one part of globe and the other part of globe will be similar. So it's a call for international organization to come up and give a policy which is suitable and which is mandatory for all of them. It also a call for the countries who cannot qualify or who cannot maintain that kind of transparency or that kind of standards. Globe will have to come together and help them. This is what I believe is going to be new generation of interdependence of economies.
My question was, we are currently significantly dependent on China for supply chain, like whether it is, active pharmaceutical ingredients or other some essential commodities. So post-COVID, how do you, what is your opinion on India reducing dependency on China, whether it will move back a lot of supply chain back to India and increase jobs in India and thereby, reducing the power of China?
I don't think so. We are, or any country is into a war situation with China. Nobody wishes to fight at this stage of time where we all are having a bleeding economy. At this stage of time, what would happen, what I personally believe is there would be lots of sanctions and there would be lots of negotiations to zero down and come on the consensus. At this stage of time, we cannot suddenly stop taking or doing anything or start taking a very hostile attitude towards the country or anybody would do so. At post-COVID stage also, we will have to give some time for the capacity development of our domestic resources and domestic production plant to do that. Till then, how we are going to deal with the crisis, which will come up as a gap if we will not take anything from China. China will also have to look into its own character, that what they have done. And in similar terms, if they do not agree to what globe has jointly decided, then there would be a disconnection, what you said would happen. Otherwise, if they agree, if they find out that, okay, there has been lacking from their side where they could have raised the early warning and other people would have saved, entire world would have gone to China to help them if they have done the lockdown previously and within the time, but they did not did it. They kept hiding and hiding and hiding. When it spread across the globe, then it came out, okay, we cannot handle with this. If we had to help, we could have given them a helping hand. So whatever sanction will come up, China will have to agree to it. And I'm sure that they will agree. If they will not agree, then the situation will turn more hostile.